Good morning and good afternoon to all of you, and welcome to our webinar about accelerating business change with solution architecture. Glad that you all can join us. My name is Tom de Ridder. I am the product manager for BlueDolphin. I work for Value Blue. And we're here today to talk about solution architecture and how it helps with the challenges of business change and how it can accelerate success. Next to that, we're also going to show you how to utilize this in BlueDolphin, as you can see on the agenda here. A little bit about the way the webinar is set up. There will be a moment to ask questions. You can ask questions during the presentation itself. There's a chat window in the webinar application, and we will try to answer those questions after the demonstration is over. So please go ahead and type stuff in the chat you want to ask us, and we'll review that later on and try to give you an answer. So, talking about solution architecture means that we have to talk about business change. So business change and some of the things I want to explain to you today might be familiar to some of you. But let's talk about what business change is and what the role for enterprise architecture is within business change. Enterprise architecture is about supporting transformation, and transformation is, with another word, is change. So change, or rather business change, is continuous and comes to organizations from all sorts of angles. Innovations, market changes, new competitors, changing customer demands. And our organizations, or all organizations, are pretty much always under construction. We're always adopting, adapting, optimizing, and innovating. And there's a manifold of reasons for this, but we never stand still as an organization. Because, like they say, standing still is going backwards. And just to set the tone of what business change we're talking about, in the context of EA, change often gets mistaken for always being very complex and very strategic and very abstract by definition. And while this is definitely part of the business change that we're talking about, the scope actually is much broader. Everything from an operational level, such as simplifying a business process, for example, or increasing efficiency or lowering costs, to indeed the very strategic business changes such as mergers and acquisitions, all fall within that scope. And what we also see with all these business changes is that they are hard to do. So why is change hard? Well, Statistica and McKinsey, two very large data consultancy organizations, have done research on project execution. And their research states that we will spend around $2.5 trillion on digital transformation, give or take a few million. And out of all those transformations and the projects that they do, 70% actually exceeds time and budget, where only 31% of the revenue that they would expect coming from those projects is realized, and only 25% of the cost savings that they would expect is realized. Of course, these are somewhat depressing numbers, but they don't simply fall out of the sky. There's an actual reason behind this, that this is why it is. And it's because change is a journey. That's the reason why. And you can break down that journey into three simple questions that you need to answer. One is, where are you now? And then the second one is, what is your next step? And how do you get there? And it's very hard to answer those questions because a lot of organizations have a lack of overview, for example, right? Complex landscapes make it hard to spot risks and assess impact and predict costs. And they also lack vertical alignment, where the strategy, the tactical, and operations are not aligned with each other, and a lack of a horizontal alignment, where teams don't understand each other. And most commonly, there's a disconnect between business and IT that actually weaken each other instead of strengthening each other. So these are the challenges that we face, and these are the challenges that we want to solve. So how can enterprise architecture play a role in making change easier? One of the major things we can do from an enterprise architecture perspective is that we can make innovation more successful. And traditionally, architects have been spending a lot of time managing the current state, right? So the combination of processes, applications, and technology and data. where in order to make a difference in the transformation, we need to actually take a look at the future. We need to identify projects and directions for strategic change of the organization. We need to see those projects and how they can improve our current landscape and plan them. And we need to design the solutions in a way that ensures that they're executed fast and with low risk and efficient. In this webinar, we're focusing on solution design, the bottom portion here. And solution design is essentially a component of enterprise architecture. It's strategic planning plus tactical planning plus solution design that pretty much makes up enterprise architecture. And the importance of solution design is in making sure that projects or changes or initiatives or epics or programs, whatever you want to call them, are executed efficiently, so fast and predictable and with low risk. And by focusing on the future state more than on the current state, business change is enabled, and enterprise architects and solution architects and associated roles actually become architects of change. They're focused on changing. A crucial pivot in thinking about what change is how to look at it, when to start with transformation, actually. So organizations can get stuck on getting the current state before actually doing projects, and as such, initiating business change. So they'll keep delaying that because they want to get the current state in order first. And we believe that starting with business change and solution design in particular can help transform organizations faster. So starting without full insights into the current state, every project that you do, every project that you do that is executed adds to the insights into the current state. So executing more projects and more projects using proper solution design will result in more and more insights into the current state. This method allows you to start adding value to your organization by facilitating effective and low risk and fast project execution instead of spending all the architect's time on managing the current state. And BlueDolphin allows you to start executing on business change immediately, which greatly enhances your enterprise architecture value. So let's take a look at what solution design actually is and how it works. So if you look at a specific project, or whatever you call them in your organization, right? Some organizations call it a change, some call it an initiative, some call it epics, some call it programs. And whatever the name of that is, whatever the name of that concept is that solution design is simply the process of how you drive business change, right? It is conceptualizing, it's detailing, it's in the interactions, the components, the structure of a system that could be all kinds of things like processes and applications, technology and data to meet the specific requirements for realizing that particular project. And some key components are, needs and requirements, resources and constraint, workflows and processes, and finally, designing a robust architecture. And the important message here is that effective solution design pretty much lays the foundation for the implementation itself, and ensures that the projects that you're doing are aligned with your business goals. So let's take a look at an example on how that is done. Imagine a retail organization, in this case, a pharmacy retail store called Liberty Retail. Liberty Retail has physical stores, as well as an online presence and a web shop. In the stores, customers are served by store personnel. So customers that buy products from the store will need to pay at a cashier, an assistant checkout of the products, as you know this from other stores and supermarkets, for example. Now, due to several reasons, such as modernizing goals, competition, customer demand, and customer research, Liberty Retail has decided to implement a self-service checkout for their stores. So this is a complex project with a deep impact across several layers of the business. You'll need a proper solution design to execute this business change effectively. So the enterprise architecture team used BlueDolphin along with business users, and they wanted to determine the value of this business change first, so that they don't miss any important areas of value there. So in BlueDolphin, they created a value map using the value proposition canvas. The value proposition canvas is a framework which can help ensure that a product or service is positioned around what the customer values and needs. And it was originally developed by Alexander Osterwalder as a framework to ensure that there's a fit between product and market. It's a common framework. For this particular project, this self-service checkout project, we can observe that customer pains, such as long queues and the fact that some people come in with a small set of items, some people come in with a larger set of items, and perceived value increase and parity with competitors that already have checkout self-service checkout caches. They've created this value map to see if they're missing stuff. And it seems to be that this project can create a clear value for the organization. And that's also the reason that we put it together, because a value map creates a discussion point, and it's great for discussion of where the most value can be gained in a certain project. So once that value map was done, other designs had to be created. But one of the things that you actually benefit from in a value map is that this is a way to create horizontal alignment between different teams. And of course, vertical alignment between different strategies. Business and IT can be benefiting from this. So next to the value map, the team created a high-level design, which is sometimes called a conceptual design. And it is a design that outlines the solution or the different solutions that the organization will consider to implement. Sometimes multiple scenarios can be taken into account to weigh the pros and cons of each of the options. And in this case, Liberty Retail used BlueDolphin, and they actually pulled together a team consisting of marketing, business development, enterprise architects, and solution architects. And they created a single design. And in this design, they visualized an easy to understand concept of how self-service checkouts work in the stores. So using images and icons and architecture objects, the result is actually pretty easy to understand view of the suggested solution. And the way they set it up is they basically create a story where a customer comes into the store, they scan products, they can scan their cards, they pay with debit or credit cards, they get age checked, for example, when buying alcohol, they get sample checks, of course. And of course, there's assistance there, right? So we have store employees helping out if anything goes wrong. And they actually had to implement a piece of hardware here, as you can see here, by a point of sales system here, a scanning system. And also in this view, you'll see associated application objects here. These are Archimate or architecture objects. Of course, those architecture objects, those architecture applications need to connect other applications, of course. And once they've scanned the groceries or the products itself, they'll receive a receipt and they'll have an exit scan at the end, which once again is driven by application and a piece of hardware. And at the same time, there's also a checkout that an employee can do in case something is wrong. So this view really compromises the whole setup, the whole solution in very easy to understand terms. We use images and icons, but we can also use existing or new enterprise architecture objects in this view. And the fact that it's easy to understand is important because the design has to be understood by many different stakeholders, from C-level executives to business users to solution architects. And what this does, this actually overcomes the lack of vertical and horizontal alignment. Once this high-level design is done, we can then move on to more detailed design. In this case, a high-level process design. And in this design, the team showing process design on the left side, where you can see right now there's just an assisted checkout. And you can see the associated roles, so the people that are involved within this business, and you can see the different the application that is used in this process. So right now, it's pretty straightforward. There's just a cashier service. And in the future state, on the right side, we'll see that we actually create a new process here, the self-service checkout process, which uses new applications. It uses the same set of roles, and it exists next to the assisted checkout option, right? So it's an addition to the process that they have. And here we can see an example of benefits to use a product like BlueDolphin for process designs. Having both the process model and the applications and the roles in the same architecture repository is really an added benefit, which allows deep analysis and visualization of the changes that you want. As you can also see here, we're kind of notated as well with some balloons here, adding extra information. So once you have this high-level process design, you could also take a step deeper into the process level. And of course, creating these kinds of visualizations, once again, gives you vertical alignment. It gives you alignment between the strategy layer, and it gives you between strategy and operations, and it gives you a better overview. It takes away the lack of overview when it comes down to the process level. So next step would be a more detailed process map. And in this detailed process design, the team used business process modeling and notation language, or BPMN for short. So once again, this is something that can be done in BlueDolphin. And the way you use it, you visualize in this case, the new self-service checkout process in more detail. You can see the different roles. You can see here on the swimming lanes. We can see the tasks in here, the yellow ones. We can see the applications that are used in these tasks. So the blue bar indicates a relationship to an application in the architecture, effectively saying, hey, this task will be executed with a certain application. And of course, there's decisions to be made and different routes you can take across the different roles that are in the system. Now, the nice part about this is all integrated with the architecture repository. So the applications come from the architecture repository. They can be connected to that. The swimming pools can be connected to business actors from the architecture repository. This also can be done with data objects and information objects. So it's a really visual way of explaining in detail what's going to happen in a certain process. And of course, that drives the benefit of a better vertical alignment, a better overview, a better insight in what's going on in the process itself or in the future process. Another example of as a final example of a more detailed design, we'll look at an application design. And once again, on the left side, you'll see the current relevant application landscape, which is an architecture view. These are applications and integrations between these applications. And there are quite a few of the integrations already there for the existing model with the point of sale system that they have now. And of course, you want to change it. So if you look at the future state design on the right side, you'll see new applications in green here, which will be added to the landscape. They'll actually have connectivity with each other, so there's integrations between these two applications. And of course, there's integrations between existing applications and the new applications, right? Because it makes sense to connect the new self-service checkout applications and to connect it to the existing point of sale systems that the assisted checkout uses, for example. So having insights as well as the current state as the future state shows it really clearly how the whole structure is going to be changed and what needs to be done. And of course, BlueDolphin allows you to even go deeper into these relationships. For example, you could, for example, double click on the relationship and find an integration design, for example. So the layering within BlueDolphin is really what drives this as well. And of course, once again, this drives the benefits of having a vertical alignment and a better overview on the situation. Once all these detailed designs are done, obviously the team would then go into executing, so that will implement the different applications. They'll refer to these designs to see where they need to change. The business process maps will be used to train employees and to show where the processes would go, where decisions will be made. But if you look at an overview of this process, is that solution design allows you to gradually discover your landscape, because each executed project adds to the current state. And after each project, reusing information gathered from the previous projects gets more elaborate and detailed. And you can compare it to discovery of uncharted territory. So with each project, the landscape becomes more clear. From discovering the landscape within the individual departments or teams, to all the way knowing the entire landscape and interconnected between different departments and teams. So that's one of the main benefits of this. Other benefits are that by employing solution design, you'll have a better chance of meeting your projects on time and budget, because you have better project impact and risk assessment, because you have better insights into the changes. You speed up the project execution by reusing the information in the landscape all the time. And you increase the business impact because you're able to better communicate between IT and business and teams in general. So recapping, change itself requires enterprise architecture, because the enterprise architecture shows you where the change is affecting, what the changes are, what level, and what area of your business, and also within the individual layers of the architecture, such as business processes and applications and data and technology. And enterprise architecture is basically where you will go, which is about the strategic and tactical planning, and taking the next step to execute it, which is solution design. Thirdly, solution design helps you with executing your project fast and with low risk, and to accelerate your transformation journey. Because quite frankly, if you're not doing anything, you're not accelerating, because you're not transforming. And the fourth one is actually start with solution design. Even if you do not have your current state map, you can still start with that. So don't let lack of insight in your current state limit you from or prevent you from actually doing changes in your organization. And then finally, why use BlueDolphin for this? Well, first of all, there's a shared repository, a shared architecture repository, which enables you to reuse objects and information and create consistency across the different models, right? Compare that to using PowerPoints, for example, for changes. You'll be constantly repeating yourself and not reusing any information. So using a shared architecture repository really helps there. There's the example of abstraction. You can switch between different views on the same design with different layers of abstraction. For example, you saw that with process modeling, and Archimate and data modeling is also a feature there. So allowing you to create different abstractions, different layers that are suited for different stakeholders, but still look at the same information. And finally, BlueDolphin is easy to use for architects and non-architects, which also enforces the idea of more abstraction and being able to communicate with other people, because we think that enterprise architecture mainly is about communication of ideas and information. That concludes that will be the end of the webinar for now. Are there any questions? And I will look at the chat real quickly. There's a couple of questions here. I'll answer the most, I think there's an answer. Will there be a recording that will be shared? Yes, there will be a recording afterwards. Zhao asked the question, what is the difference between service design and solution design? So service design is a certain type of design in which you talk about business services rather than the actual implementation of processes, application, technology, and data. So service design is actually something that you could include in solution design, could even be part of your initial journey, where you just basically say, hey, what kind of business service do we need in this new story, in this project? And then you could drill down on what each of those services would need in terms of processes and applications. So it's a different layer, really. I'd say it's not the same, and they're also on different layers. So solution design could include service design as part of the roadmap or the design itself. And then somebody else also answered that question, I think, and I think hopefully kind of answered the same question. So Merdad said, service is a part of the solution, right? Or the solution is more detailed, or the service is the solution. Depends on terminologies and definitions internal to your organization. Exactly. So it's dependent on how you define services versus solutions. Then Michael has a more product-related question. He saw, actually Michael is probably an existing BlueDolphin user, he saw the new BPMN module in my presentation. So when I showed the BPMN, the process design, that was actually a screenshot of the actual new BPMN module. The new BPMN module will gradually be released. We're now in a closed beta state, and we will be going into another beta state starting with Q2. So the best thing you could do, Michael, is get in touch with your account manager to see if we can, if your organization will be eligible to be included. Near the end of the year, we'll be having a general available BPMN module, the new one. Then Yuri asks, do you have recommendations to follow a training on solution design? Does ValueBlue have training on this as well? We are in the process of creating trainings on this with BPMN. We do not have one currently, but I might have to check that later on. I'm not sure if you're an existing customer, Yuri, or not. If you are, get in touch with your account manager. And otherwise, let us get your contact details. We can have a chat about that more privately. But we are planning on doing a training like that. I'm not sure if we have one already. Then Nicola actually has a question and a remark. Thanks for the great story. Well, thanks, Nicola, for asking. For an organization, do you believe the EA plus solution design should be led by IT, business, or both? Which is the best way you can suggest? The best way, in my mind, is be led by business. And it kind of depends on what kind of change, obviously, right? So if it's an IT-led change, for example, a technology lead, like a cloud migration, or a necessary change, such as a version upgrades for your crucial software and your IT infrastructure, those are IT-led, of course. But in general, you want business to lead your changes because they are focused on creating value for their end user service, the customers, or whatever kind of stakeholders they have. So I would definitely try to lead by business. And Merdad asked, can you add programmatically through web service features to BlueDolphin? Not sure about that question. If you talk about features in the products themselves, we have a series of web services. So we have a public API that allows you to interface with BlueDolphin. I think if that's your question, yes, we can do that. I'm not sure if that answers your question. If you have more detailed, you can elaborate a little bit, please type in the chat there. I think that was a question. Yuri, thanks. And next is a customer. Great. Thank you, Nitin and Merdad. Okay, also thanks. I think no more questions. Yeah, there's one question I saw is, would you recommend creating a value map for all types of projects, right? So I showed you a value map in the beginning. That is not recommended for all projects, right? Certain projects, certainly the ones that are more related to IT, are not that suited for creating value maps because it's sometimes hard to put a business problem to some of these changes. Specifically, they're more in the change programs like updates on software and that kind of stuff, stuff that you need to continue to provide IT services. So no, not all projects have a need for value maps. I think those were all the questions. Well, thank you all a lot. And once again, the link to the recording will be sent to you. And if you have any other questions and you are an existing customer, reach out to your account manager. If you're not, you can reach out to our sales department. Thank you all very much and have a great day.